So when the time came to get a new one, for me, there was just no hesitation. I knew it was going to be still a Double D, especially over the years I'd been watching as more and more safety features were included.
Today, guys, we have Jamie and Adrianne, and they live in, where are you guys, Washington State?
In Oregon.
Oregon. I knew somewhere out west. So welcome to the Double D Trailer, Horse Trailer podcast. We appreciate you guys taking the time to be on our podcast.
Glad to be here.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah, we'll have some fun. So can you both share a bit about yourselves and your background with horses, whichever would like to go first?
I guess I'll go. I've been involved with horses since I was a teenager and worked, did the whole work for lessons thing. And then I got married, and my first horse, I don't know if you remember back when people when you got a credit card, they would give you a checkbook, and it was like 20% interest if you wrote a check on those. And that is how I bought my first horse. Very financially smart was I. But he was amazing. And he made it to 29, and he was the first reason I ever looked into Double Ds, because he was everything to me. And the idea of him getting hurt in a trailer accident, always bothered me. But I had him, and then my husband got a horse, and then my kids got ponies. So I've owned horses nonstop since I was 20 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm lucky enough to work from home, and they're in my backyard. So I love that part too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I've had horses all my life. My mom had horses back east in Connecticut, standard breds off track. And then I really started digging into horses. I went to Sterling College in Vermont, which has a draft horse management program. So I learned how to drive draft horses in the woods and the fields and everything. And when I moved back to Oregon after my son was born, I found an endurance trainer on Craigslist, of all places, who needed an extra butt in her saddle to condition her sales horses and her training horses. So I rode with her and did what's called catch riding for several years, where people loaned me horses for free to do endurance. And then I actually got one of Adrianne's old horses. And when we lost him, I went out and bought myself a previously feral Morgan mare 3 years ago. And last year we just finished 4 50-mile rides for our endurance season. And then I'm building her up, hopefully in 2025, to do a 100-mile ride.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds fun.
I did one endurance ride and marked it off my bucket list, but I support her. I do love trail riding. Trail riding is my heart and soul. But I quickly learned that going Mach 30 nonstop for 6 hours was not my cup of tea. But I love watching her do it and helping her at her vet checks when I can.
Wow. You said 100 miles?
Yeah, that's my ultimate goal with her. That and Decade Team, which is one 50-mile ride for a decade straight.
Side note, has nothing to do with the horses. I was at the gym this morning, and a lady walked by that I'd seen several times. I spoke to her, and she said she was training for a marathon. And I'm like, cool, that sounds fun. And she said it's a 100-mile marathon. 100 miles. I'm like, I don't know. Moving on. 100 miles.
Well, for Tevis, I don't know if you're familiar, that's the toughest endurance ride in the States. It's actually the human runners, the Western states run. They run over the same trail, and then the horses run over it 2 weeks later. So you can do it on your own 2 feet, or you can do it on horseback. And I know which one I'd choose.
You got that right. Yeah. 4-wheeler.
What's really crazy is people will do the Tevis, and the Tevis doesn't require you to actually be riding the horse. So people will run the whole thing leading a pony or a horse with them.
Wow.
It's insane to me. Like, I love riding, but I could not imagine.
Yeah. Adrianne, you purchased your Double D trailer first. What initially drew you to the SafeTack reverse? I think it's a 3-horse bumper pull. And how has it met your expectations?
So back when I think it was a while ago, we didn't have a horse trailer at all. And we knew we were going to be moving from Oklahoma to Washington, and we wanted a really safe horse trailer to make that drive. So I did a bunch of research online, and, I'd read articles about how people were starting to just load their horses backwards and talk about reverse loading because in accidents, the horse's butt hitting a wall versus their head.
Right.
They had much more likelihood of surviving, anytime you have to throw the brakes on. And we were about to make basically a cross-country trip. And then, storage was an issue. We were leaving a bunch behind because we really didn't want to take a ton with us. So we had like a pod. And so, that was the plan at the time. And so we wanted to find a trailer that had, a lot of room that didn't have wasted space. And so, like, as I'm searching online and searching used trailer sites, I found a used Double D for sale. It was one of your older style. It was a gooseneck stock back when you had the plywood walls.
Right.
And I found one used online that was just in our budget. And we loved the design. And the more I read about it, we went to your website and we read on your website, and then we thought, okay, wait, we've talked to this guy before. I remember at one point we'd already emailed with you about getting a new one. And at the time we just couldn't do it. I was like the front desk manager of a hotel. So to find one used that was in perfect condition, we snapped it up, and we had it for years. And I just loved it. I mean, it did everything that had been promised on your website and by the people we bought it from. It drove like a dream. It was very easy to take care of. And the SafeTack reverse part, having that swing out tack area, it was just so much nicer. It proved your selling point was correct. Having all that room, my horses never hesitated getting in and out because they didn't have that tiny spot that a lot of trailers have when they have the rear tacks. And a lot of my friends' horses who hated loading and unloading never had a problem when I gave them rides, because with a 3-horse, I was always giving people rides to the trailheads. So when the time came to get a new one, for me, there was just no hesitation. I knew it was going to be still a Double D, especially over the years I'd been watching as more and more safety features were included. Stuff that I'd manually done to the one we bought, you were now just including standard, having cushions and bumpers for where they load and unload so they don't hit their heads, everything to including fans. And then, of course, stuff you can't do on your own, like having the one-piece roof and just building it super strong. So we bought it. I know we emailed with you back and forth for months, deciding on what we wanted and what sizes and everything like that. And from the moment we got it, we haven't had any issues with the trailer other than normal wear and tear items. It's just done everything we wanted. And the few times, because of the cameras, the few times where I have had to hit the brakes because somebody cut me off, to see them just brace and push their butts into the wall and be okay just made me feel really safe and good about it, especially since a few years ago, there was a woman in my town who was driving to a trailhead that we go to all the time. And she got cut off really bad. Witnesses talked about how she barely missed hitting the car. She hit her brakes so hard. And she continued on her way. She avoided the accident. And when she got to the trailhead, worst case scenario, she opened the door and her horse was gone because the head trauma from her hitting the brakes. And it was awful, and to know that we don't have to worry about, no trailer is perfect, no accident is perfect, but to know that that's one less thing that I ever have to worry about. I don't have to worry about a rear tack collapsing and sending items throwing through the horse area because it's its own secure welded piece. There's nothing loose back there that can hurt the horses. Even the way the dividers are built, the fact that we have the kind, you offer all these different options, and we have the kind where you lift the bar to swing it out or close it or to remove it. And one time we got a brand new horse to us. We knew nothing about her. And she was freaking out because she hadn't been trailered in years, and she reared. And my kids saw it on the camera. We were about to pull out, and I can't even imagine what would have happened if we didn't have the cameras. We would have driven 20 miles and had no idea. But she had reared up high enough to get her legs all the way over the divider. Oh, wow. And because of the cameras, she saw that before we even put the truck into drive. And the way the dividers are built, all you had to do was lift the bars and lower the divider. The whole divider just goes to the ground. And as we were lowering the divider, she did another rear and was able to just, drop to the ground. And she ended up being okay. But between the cameras letting us know she was stuck like that and the way your dividers remove made it so easy to get her out of a horrible situation. Because if we'd driven 20 miles with her leg over like that, I can't even imagine what state she would have been in or condition when we got to the trailhead, and we would have had our own tragedy. So just like I said, there's just so many safety features that I can't imagine having one that didn't have those things in it.
Yeah. So you have the double swing divider. Is it, does it have the V? So like a head stall on both ends and then.
Yeah, it has the V. And I think, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, but because of what happened with Xena, isn't that why you went for the full no V one? And
I'm usually hauling friends' horses. So the horse that I'm hauling isn't necessarily a herd mate. So I have the stud divider so that they can see each other, but they can't be messing with each other.
Maybe we'll consider going back to solid. I used to build them all solid all the way across without the V. And, the double swing partition, just in the nature of the beast of it having to hinge on both ends, you have to lift up on it to get it back onto the barrel. And on an A wide, they get heavy. So we started doing the V really just to save a little bit of weight for the user. But now hearing this story from you guys, I mean, if we just leave it straight all the way across, that would solve that issue. A leg wouldn't even have been able to go over.
To be fair, it did make me want a solid one. I even told my husband that I should ask you next time you're selling a trailer that's coming out to Washington to sell me a solid one and just send it with them and I'll pick it up. But when I watched the video, of having a solid one probably would have helped a bit, but there's no way to tell. She was full blown rearing, her legs were all the way up. And we've since worked with her on the behavior, and it turned out it was massive herd boundness from not leaving that property in a very long time. And now she trailers beautifully. She's not a problem at all anymore. But the fact that we could remove the divider so easily, that's part of what saved the day. We didn't have to swing it to remove it, right? You could just lift the bars and the divider stays level, right? You don't have to lift the divider out. You just move the bars and you can pull the divider down. And that as we were doing that, she reared again and my friend was able to help pop her leg over. But it gave such an easy way to possibly get her out of that situation. But I'd say, horses will always find a way to do something. So I was grateful we had a trailer built in a way where those options allowed us to extricate her safely without having to break the divider, without having to damage her or damage the trailer. And again, I still felt very safe. And once we knew she was fine, we still went to the ride and she was A-okay.
You guys you're in close proximity to each other?
Yeah, about 45 minutes away.
Okay. And Jamie, after you saw Adrian's trailer, what made you decide to purchase? You also have a reverse load, but in a 2-horse model. Were there specific features that stood out to you?
So my story is a little bit different than hers. I had a little 2-horse stock trailer and it worked for my old gelding Flash. She was fine in it. But we actually used Adrian's trailer to go pick up Parma because we found her north of where Adrian lives. So we were like, let's use the really nice trailer to go get her. And the sellers told me that they'd been trailering her on and off. But I was like, you never know. You go get a new horse, what they know and don't know. But she loaded up and traveled perfectly well in that trailer. And as an endurance rider, I trailer during the high season 2 to 3 days a week. And I do really long trips to get to rides and everything. So trailer loading, and we were evacuated for fires a couple of years ago. So trailer loading is a non-negotiable for me. A horse has to load. They have to load when I ask them to, and they have to travel comfortably. Because I've seen horses get off, they'll load, but they get off sweaty messes. And so I didn't want that. I wanted a really comfortable trailer. And there was one time Tarma was about 50-50 on my old little trailer she'd get on any given day. Because she's like I said, a formerly feral mare. She's had 2 foals. She's all about self-preservation. And she's like, if I don't feel safe getting on that, I'm not getting on any given day. And I was going to meet some friends at a local trail head, and she just picked that day to not load. And it took hours. I tried every trick I'd ever been taught, ever been shown that was, what I felt comfortable with. And she was like, she never stepped a foot in the trailer that day. She's like, this is not happening. So of course I cried, and I came home to my husband. I was like, I can't do this sport with this horse, with this trailer. It is not going to work. I can't go to the barn every day going, is she going to load or not? So we sat down and we did a really hard budget. And I did get a bunch of quotes from other places, but I kept coming back to the Double D because I knew when I did get her to trailer in mine and we trailered her in Adrian's, she'd self-load every single time. Side load, back load, whatever. She traveled perfectly comfortably in Adrian's trailer every single time. And I wanted that. And so we sat down and we did the budget. And I know you were so patient with me because I must have been like 17, 18 different versions of my trailer trying to hit that monthly budget that the husband's like, you can go this and not over. And I was like, for all the features I needed, which I can list, there's at least 10 different features that no one else really does standard, like the rim bar flooring. I actually had one trailer make try to be like, oh, you don't need that. And I was like, I do. And then the SafeTack and all these things. And I was like, if I'm going to get a trailer for the next 20 to 30 years, it's going to be a Double D. So I can either buy it now or I can buy it in 5 years. So I put the quote together and we hit the price point, and I've put 20,000 miles on my trailer because I track the mileage really close, and It's been awesome. And every day, no matter if it's been 3 weeks since we hauled out, no matter if we just hauled 6 hours, Tarma will self-load. And to me, that's worth every penny. One time last summer, we had the trailer backed up to the barn door, and we were futzing with them, grooming them and everything, getting them ready. And I just had her ground tied, and I turned around to go grab something. And when I turned back around, she had just loaded herself on the trailer. Neat as you please. It was like, you can't put a price point on that.
No, I think there was one time we were leaving a trail ride and we were both kind of friendly competing whose horse would self-load better. And it was pretty much a tie. We both just let go of their halters and they just both got on, and we've gotten lazy. I can't speak for Jamie all the time, but I know I have. I don't always do the side ramp anymore.
Yeah.
I just do the back ramp. And so my girl, and I think you've seen the video I sent you, Brad, where she'll just go in and she'll do a turn on the forehand and just sidestep into place. So she's still rear facing. And then I just shut the divider while she munches down on her hay. And both girls did. And we were like, why did we not videotape this today?
Yeah. Man, that's awesome stuff to hear. Jamie, your first trailer, that was how many horses?
It was 2 horses, but it's a little Morgan built stock trailer.
Was it straight load or did it have partitions in it?
No, it was a slant load, and I had actually put ties in it so that they did rear face in it. But it wasn't as wide or as big or as tall as my current one.
Right.
I think Jamie and I are both mentally blocking out the black trailer.
Oh, I don't even talk about that one anymore.
Did it have a rear tack in it?
It did not.
Okay, a rear tack.
No, we both shared. There's this old trailer I had at one point that it was meant to be like just an emergency standby trailer. And the amount of hate my horses all had for it. It was one of those cliche, really old style ones you kind of almost picture at the stockyards, where it's front load with the little windows in the front and the tiny partition. And my mare even learned how to open the window. I'd be driving down the road and you would just see her open the window and I'd go close it and she would open it again. And so much stress. But at one point I gave it to Jamie while she was in between trailers. And it's funny. She's like, my first trailer is this one, because we both hated that black trailer so much. But if you were to take a picture and put that one next to our Double Ds now, it's like a how far have you come thing, because we despised that trailer. And in fact, I think when she sold it, she made sure it went to somebody who just wanted to do like a coffee shop.
No, it was sold to a
coffee trailer
sauna for rafters.
Oh,
they were going to put any animals in it.
Yeah. We were like, this torture device ends with us. Nobody else, no other animals are ever going in this thing.
That's pretty funny. Both of you guys, you both have the reverse load. And Jamie, you touched on this about features. I think you said 10 things that you were specifically looking for. So can you talk a little bit about the custom features that you selected and why you wanted those?
So mine, I think I did 6 different quotes from 6 different companies, and all of them, there were several things that either nobody else did or they didn't do it standard, or they're like, what is that? So the reverse load was the top one. The rumbar flooring was another. The SafeTack box was another. Just also the whole nature of Double D is a horse first company. A lot of other trailer makers, and not to like bash them or anything, but they do the human comfort first, and then the horse comfort and horse loading and everything seems kind of secondary, especially on the LQs. But Double D was the one that starts with what does the horse need? So that bright white tack area, all the comfort features and everything, the vents, the drop down doors, the fiberglass roof, everything was just all horse first. And that's what you need when you're putting 20,000 miles on your animals in your trailer, is that concept right there. So, and then the biggest thing that sold it to me is because I was trying to get all these quotes and the pricing wasn't transparent. So every time I wanted to like twist a feature or be like, what if I did it this way? Or like there were some features on some other trailers that I really liked, I would have to go through these dealers and everything. And it wasn't a very smooth or easy, transparent process. But with you, like I said, did this like 17 different builds, because I was like, if I get this feature, I can't afford this one. But for what I do, this one's probably better. And you were just like, all right, here's this one, here's this one, here's this one. So I was able to really tinker with it at the level that I felt comfortable with to really end up with what I wanted.
And I think I want to add on to that, especially about the transparency and working with you specifically, is I know when I was building mine, your level of honesty, like we were going to get a few features and you asked, like, what are you going to use this for? What kind of horses do you have? And there were some really expensive features that you actually talked me out of. You were like, from your experience, I wouldn't actually use them that much. They wouldn't add value for what I did with the trailer. And talking me out of those allowed me to budget in some other features that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to afford. And of course, in the end, save money. And you ended up being right. Like the features I ended up not getting, I just never would have used in the first place, like the hay pod, right? It never would have happened. Climbing up on top of the trailer, I avoid at all costs unless it's to clean my little solar panel. And I see now I would have never used it. And freeing up that money, it brought down the overall price of the trailer. It allowed me to get the solar panel for charging the jack so that I never have to worry about the battery being dead. In fact, I've had that trailer since, I don't even remember now, 2017 or something like that. The batteries only died once and it was completely my fault. I left everything on one day. I left all the lights on. I left the cameras running. I left the fans running because I had just unhooked the trailer and ran inside to do something and forgot to do my post-ride walkthrough. And that's the only time it's ever died, because we were in the middle of winter. So I doubt the solar panel was even getting a trickle charge. But the level of honesty you gave and advice, any of the things I ended up not liking about my trailer were things that I made the wrong decision on. And some of them were even things you tried to advise me on. And I was like, oh no, it's fine. And I was wrong. So I think, and I've told this to you before, I think literally the only thing I truly miss from the older Double D to this one is the wider running boards, because I always used that. Like you had really wide running boards on the older models, and I'd use those to put buckets on and drawers on, especially when I camped. And the newer ones are the more standard, and I totally know why those are used. They're a little bit more safer and streamlined. But of all the things I've got in my trailer, I still love it to this day. Like I joke for anyone who loves Doctor Who, how he's buried in his TARDIS. I'm going to be buried in the Double D one day. And then my kid who rides is like, no, I get that in the will.
Is yours, I should have looked at the specs on yours. Is it a standard width or a wider model?
It's a standard width with it's a little bit taller to account for the awning.
No wheel well in the horse area.
What was that?
Are there any wheel wells inside the horse area protruding? It's a smooth wall.
Yep, it's a smooth wall. I will say, as a short person, that extra height for the awning makes it very comical when I'm trying to open the vents.
Right. Nice.
I'm pretty
think
much doing jumping jacks.
I think the biggest thing I did different from Adrian's build that proved out is because as an endurance rider, I'm in the backcountry on some questionable roads, questionable fields. And the biggest thing I did was I had the trailer lifted 3 inches over standard, and I've never bottomed out or gotten stuck anywhere.
Nice.
So that was critical for me.
Yeah, we've actually started doing that. I've had enough concerns and complaints over the years with folks like, it's so low, my jack is scrubbing and this and that. And of course, the goal is the low center of gravity, which improves the ride for the horse. But these days, every bumper pull we build, we're actually 3 inches higher now. And as you say, it's just sort of helped all the way around. And thank you for saying those kind words. I mean, we try to be honest folks and straight up and do good business. That's the way we were raised. So both of you guys have the rumber flooring. What's been your experience with that? Do you like it? Have you had issues with slippage? Just what's your feedback?
I mean, we both use it with the pellet bedding. I know some people get rumber flooring. For them, it means to not use any bedding, but P is still slick. I don't care what kind of floor you have.
True.
But that said, it's so easy to maintain. It's so easy to clean. You don't have to lift and check under mats. That was one thing I hated about each of my previous horse trailers was the constant worry that I was missing a rod and board. Because hauling out those mats is really hard to do. So it's anybody who says they don't walk the line between how often we should check the floors and how often we want to deal with the mats. It's a hard line to walk. And with the rumber floor, I can't speak for Jamie, but I love it. I absolutely love it. It's just so easy to keep clean, even with the bedding. And I've never had the horses slip. And like I said, there are a few times I've had to hit the brakes. And they braced, of course, but I've never seen them even in that situation have to even try to not slide or slip.
Are your horses shoed?
No.
So not.
We use boots a lot.
Yeah, I do tend, if I'm going to be riding, I do trailer and boots.
Okay.
Because I've read, it can just, if there ever is an emergency and I have to unload on a road, I like the idea of them already having boots on.
Right.
But even when I trailer them purely barefoot, say to go to a vet or whatever, I've never seen them slip or slide in the videos.
And you use what type of shaving? You said
those pine pellets that you use in stalls, the ones that expand when you soak them a bit, never in pellet form.
Okay.
That would cause a slip hazard.
Sure.
So we always soak them down. So they're pretty much sawdust.
Nice. Yeah. And how about you, Jamie? What's been your experience with that? Similar, or have you had issues?
No, I love it for the same reason. And I use the same bedding. I can definitely tell the difference in comfort on the horses because I have hauled her a time or two in friends' trailers when my truck was like, no, I'm not hauling today. And I can tell the difference between the regular flooring with mats on it and the rumbar, especially because we put so many miles on them. It absorbs so much more vibration and everything.
Yeah.
And it's super easy to clean because every 2 to 3 months or so, I pressure wash my entire trailer and it's so easy to do. And I know I'm not harming it any.
That's good feedback. We did a survey a couple, 3 years ago, I think it's been, and got, 60, 70 responses back from it. And the feedback was mixed on the rumber flooring. I know I've seen online and some of the forums and things that it's slippery and the horses can fall. And we've had folks call us and say, hey, my horse, slid down on this. So yeah, it's good.
That can be a risk with any floor type though. If I think that leads more into the bedding debate
and how you drive.
People don't like bedding because, it can throw dust in the air. I tend to keep mine just a tad bit damp and then you don't have to worry about that. But I've seen horses slip on all types of flooring, whether it's matted, aluminum, wood. And I think it's just, I don't think it's rumber specific, though I can understand why some people feel that way. But I think it's also without, going there too much when it comes to the bedding. A lot of people leave them in pellet form. Right. And again, you've seen horses slip and slide on those in a stall, let alone in a moving trailer. So I think it just really comes down to how you're trailering, the distance you're trailering, how you drive. I had a friend admit to me one time she got somewhere and her mare she got there and her mare was straight up laying on the ground and when she looked back at her video, I think it was like a Trails West. So it had nothing to do with the trailer, but it kind of made her realize she was taking turns too hard and she was braking too hard. So I think there's so many factors that can go into why a horse falls or slips and slides in a trailer that it's hard to tell for sure that it's the floor. I mean, without doing a legitimate study, right, where you had all different floors and everybody driving the same speed and having the same skillful horse. Skillful is maybe the wrong word. A horse that's experienced in trailering. Yeah, it'd be really hard to tell. But for me, I've never had an issue with the rumper, and I've had all different floor types.
I almost always haul with shavings, but if I've just cleaned it out and I'm only going 5-10 minutes, I'll haul her without anything, and she still doesn't scramble or anything.
Yeah, and I would ask those people, like, if you ever do feedback with them, is if they don't have shavings and they pee in there, that's going to be slippery again, no matter what kind of floor they have.
Yeah, it's a rubber.
You're gonna.
If it's a rubber mat, they're still going to be, I mean, if it's wet, it's going to be slippery.
Yeah. But I mean, I think what's great is for you guys, it's an option. And that's what the best part is it's up to people what they do when it comes to floor types.
Yeah, I think we built one trailer last year with a rubber mat. So it's like 99% of our builds are rumber. So that's the majority of what we do. During the design, it's a little off topic, the design process, did we ever chat? Did I speak with either one of you verbally?
You and I spoke on the phone, I think twice.
Okay. How about you?
Mine was all email.
All email. Yeah. Yeah, we get some pushback on that. I need to talk to somebody, but once clients have actually gone through the process of how detailed it is, and as you said, the amount of time that we spent months going back and forth, when we get off of this video call, I will have forgotten 50% of what we talked about before dinner tonight.
No, I agree. When you email, it's all written down, and that can benefit the buyer and the seller, because if you deliver a trailer and they're like, hey, why doesn't this have extra D-rings? And it's nowhere in the plans, and it's nowhere in the emails. For me, I realized I had made a mistake in what I ordered. And when I looked back through the emails, I realized I hadn't been clear with you. And so, because at first when it got here, I was like, hey, wait a minute. And then I went and I looked through the emails and I realized, no, I had never specifically said, please do this. And when you asked if we'd called, I wasn't sure context, but one of them was just about the delivery. You were touching base with me on the delivery. Okay. And the other time it was simply to double check something about the loan. We never actually discussed anything about the trailer build. Right. Because you had brought that up, that you preferred everything in email, and my husband and I agreed with you. It's the safer way to go. It's the way I run my business too. If it's not in an email or a document, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
If somebody promises me something or I promise you something, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. And Jamie, you work in an auditable business. I believe that's one of their catchphrases. If it's not documented, it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
good feedback. Wrapping up. So we're always looking to improve. Any advice, feedback, suggestions you'd like to share with us or for future improvements?
I think for me, like on the website, you have so many features, which is great. Not all of them are fully explained. So sometimes I felt bad having to email you. I should be fair. I haven't looked at your website in a couple of years, so this might have been already addressed. But for me, I felt sometimes I was almost having to nag you a little bit on, I didn't understand what some of the things did, or there would be something in the pictures that wasn't explained on the website.
Right.
And then sometimes some of the options, they're fantastic, but it wasn't clear like how they differed from each other. But other than that, if I asked you, you always told me. So I would just always say, just make sure that any options are just really well explained. And then other than that, for me, it was a wonderful experience. I'm super happy with my trailer. And like I said, the few things that I wish I'd done differently, those were decisions I made that you actually tried to talk me out of, like not having a vent in my tack room. So
did we do a vent?
Nope. I thought I wouldn't need it because I love having the windows open all the time. And Jamie has one, and
I don't actually. I don't have a vent in my tack room. I just go with the windows and I leave the door open at night.
Yeah. I thought that was one of the things you did that I didn't do. But sometimes I wish I'd still done the vent when it comes to condensation. But you tried to warn me of that. You're like, you're in a really wet environment. Are you sure you don't want to vent? And I didn't think I'd need it because we had, I'd never had one before and I wasn't worried about it. And I store so many clothes in there. But again, it was something, everything else. Your advice was pretty much spot on. All the features you talked me out of or into, I ended up not needing or needing as you recommended. So I was really grateful for that hands-on experience. And I love seeing how you guys are constantly improving. Like just the difference between my first double D and my second double D, the difference between what was standard between when I bought my second double D and Jamie bought hers, right? Like there were already massive differences in things you guys had upgraded and did better. The monitors, the awning designs you guys do now. There's just so many things like you're constantly trying to improve. So I doubt there's much input I can give you. You haven't already addressed. Even the raising of the trailer, because I know that's why Jamie lifted hers was I was grounding out on things and she was like, nope. And you guys, when you heard that, you immediately, you told me you'd heard it from other people too, and you addressed it.
Yeah.
And you made it a standard to address it. So
awesome, guys. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to do this. It's been a pleasure seeing you, face to face and talking, just, sharing experiences. So we really appreciate it. Thank you for being on our podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We could talk about our trailers all day, and we do at trailheads and it rides. Everyone always is like, what is this?
Yeah, we should have recorded the first 20, 30 minutes of our conversation, which was about the new 3D trailer. But that's a story for another day.
Well, I'm still really excited to see what you guys do with that. And it was really neat to hear about the process. Really good luck with that. And thank you for investing so much research and development into something that's completely new.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.